All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Firecrackers. So let's shift our focus and attention now to Nigeria's economy as we get some analysis and perspective. Joining me live to shed light on this here in the studios here in Lagos is Lester Wilcox, public policy analyst. He's also an accountant by training. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yes, and of course, virtually, a chartered economist joins us live from Southampton in the United Kingdom, Samson Shoebi. Thank you so much, Samson, for agreeing to speak with us. We'll come to you very, very quickly. But let's begin here in Lagos with Lester. Lester, I wonder how you're receiving this news. The growth of our gross domestic product by 5.01%. Great news, you think?
Oh, very, very cheering. Very, very cheering. Because for one thing, you can know that for a long while now, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, has been an independent organization doing their job without any interference. And so when there is negative, they tell you there is negative growth. When there is positive, they tell you there is positive growth. When there is a rise in inflation, they will tell you. When there is a drop, they will also tell you, and by the percentage. So to that effect, I'm confident that what they are giving reflects the true position of things in the country. Now, one will say, okay, there are so many things that are not there because of our data collection method. Therefore, whatever template they are using to measure over the years our economic performances, it has been consistent. Whatever, despite those areas that I would say those indicators that cannot be captured. I mean, because of the way we do business in Nigeria, but the template they are using has always shown that they are doing a job that are independent of any interference from anybody. The Statistician General has always maintained, I'm talking of Dr. Kali, has always maintained its office and has done its job the way without any political interference from anybody. So we should see that as a reflection of the reality on ground.
Let's bring in Samson. Samson, I'm sure you heard the opening thoughts of Lester here in Lagos. I wonder if you doubt these statistics from the MBS.
I don't have any doubt, even though these results are not absolute, because just like Mr. Alex has actually mentioned, we do not have in Nigeria full statistics, that a data capturing system that actually reflects realities as we speak as of today. But one thing Mr. Kale has done with the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics is to ensure that he works as independently as possible to ensure that information projected out of that department or agency reflects close to reality. It's not entirely the reality on the ground, but it's reflective of, you can be sure that this is close to what we have, but it's not exactly what we have. So it's welcomed. I agree with him 100%. I mean,
yes. So let's stay with you, Samson. I mean, you have been in the country for a while now. You've been shuffling Nigeria and the UK. So let's discuss the significance, which is very important on the life of Nigerians. Basically, I wonder if you think that this growth will make any sort of impact on the life of the average Nigerian.
Okay, so the GDP growth doesn't actually reflect impact to an average Nigerian, because what it's talking about is gross domestic products, the total sales of the country for a period of time. But in actual, what an average Nigerian is looking forward to is actually how they are able to procure whatever it is they procure, how much it costs them to buy per time, how much can they spend in the market. So you've gone to the market and you've seen your feedbacks. People are really, angry with the fact that there has been high inflation and there hasn't been a commensurate increase in income. So it won't really reflect any improvement much on the life of an average Nigerian. But again, It can have inflect in employability, because yes, when organizations make more profit, they look at engaging more hands. But to an average Nigerian, in the generality of the society, it's not going to have much impact, because now it's not like we're going to stop having inflation in food items. Insecurity, we are still at the heat of it. And these are factors that actually contribute to how Nigerians or how an average Nigerian actually feel about the society or about the government or about progress, about data like this. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, this is good, this is positive, and we give it to the government. This is a step in the right direction. But whatever it is that we're doing, there are so many other factors the government could do to ensure that it enables Nigerians to have better life, live better, and have better experience in their country. He has mentioned during that report that man you interviewed mentioned the high cost of tomato. Tomato is what we plant here. Imagine if we don't have to go to Cameroon to go and procure tomato, we buy from here. How cheap will it have been? So these are things that actually influence an average Nigerian. When they go to the market with just 10,000, how much can they buy? Those are the factors that actually matter to an average Nigerian on the street.
Yes, we'll check in with you very, very quickly, but let's come back here in the studio too and get the perspective of Alexa here. Alexa, the implications of this growth on Nigerians. You think it doesn't in any way affect Nigerians?
No, well, we tend to mix GDP growth and income distribution, or
because even when I hate to break your flow of thoughts, even when the presidency responded, he said, I mean, while congratulating Nigerians and all of that, he also said that they should reflect on the lives and the pockets of Nigerians.
No, certainly. See, when you have a GDP growth, many people benefited. GDP does not spread equally. Now you have what they call per capita income of every country. Even in the UK, in the US, you have what is called per capita income. That is GDP over population, okay, which will give the per capita income. Now it doesn't mean that everybody. It's an economic assumption that everybody is having this. If the GDP is spread in favor of population, against the population, everybody should have maybe X amount of US dollar or thereabout. But of course, in reality, that is not it, because there is no equality in any system. Some people are very, very rich, and then the GDP, when they have increased GDP, they may be richer, while some people might be poorer. Because I mean, economic system, you have to create wealth for it to have resources. There is nowhere in the world where money drops from the sky. Whatever GDP that we are having is as a result of an economic activity that it's generated within the system. Who created them? It is still within Nigeria. Those things happen within Nigeria. If it is increase in domestic output, if it's increase in the income flow, it happens within Nigeria. For instance, we're talking about the expenditure pattern. I'm sure there isn't the expenditure pattern as the base of computing their GDP. Now, if there's a GDP growth, that means there were more expenditure. Who carried it out? It is still Nigerians. So, but sometimes we say because of inflation, we now equate inflation, cost of living, and say we are not seeing it reflecting in our lives. But sometimes we Nigerians, we don't sit down to calculate our expenditure. We are always at our default mood is complaint. Most every Nigerian, our default mood is complain. Even when good things happen around you, because and it's a general thing, because we're in that default mood that we never see anything positive. Now, what happens in terms of price? Yes, I'm not holding brief for the managers of the economy, but I have always said it. Our present system does not reflect economic pricing. We have so many extraneous factors that affect our present level. Just somebody can just wake up and increase price and say, "Oh, everything has gone up." A landlord can just wake up and increase rent and say, "Because everything has gone up." There is no economic model. So most times I used to say this: we have 60%, 40% economic price model and 60% Nigerian factor pricing model.
All right.
Which has nothing to do with economics. And so because of our nature, the way we do things around here, most of these things do not follow any sound economic principle. But not to say that we are not having challenges in terms of acute in terms of income, distribution, those things are there. But I tell you, our nature, the way we behave, the way we reason, the way we do things, sometimes creates more distortion for the economic managers as to what is even the right position of things.
All right, so let's take a listen to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, very recently speaking on the President's mandate and, of course, in reference to the economy. We'll take that and then we'll come back and ask the question of just how can we consolidate and sustain this growth. We are back in just a moment. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. This is the concluding part of the show. Lester Wilcox is right here in the studios with me, public policy analyst. He's also an accountant by training. I'm always tempted to call him or refer to him as Pro Buharis. And of course, Samson Shoebi is also standing by live from the United Kingdom, Southampton precisely. Something I'm not sure I refer to you as anti-Buharis, but let me also ask anti-Buhari. But let me just ask you this question, Samson, as we wind down the conversation. Just how can we build on this growth? How can we consolidate on this growth as recorded by, as recorded by the country at the moment, 5.01%?
Okay, so before I answer that question, I will just quickly react to what Mr. Alexa said so that Nigerians can be aware of realities. Now, this GDP we are talking about is actually a product of cost implication and pricing. Now, everybody will be aware of the fact that there has been inflationary effects in our society, in our economy, and automatically price of goods and services have actually improved and increased substantially. Normally, if you normally buy 10 oranges and each one used to go for 10 naira per one, you actually earn about 100 naira for those 10. Now, when those prices of those orange increase to 12 naira, automatically what you are going to sell is 120. If your GDP rise from 100 naira to 120, you will say it's a positive growth because you have recorded a positive growth. But in actual effect, the number of actual oranges that you have did not increase from 10 to 12. It's still 10. And what matters to an average Nigerian in their homes is the number of value they are able to get in equivalence to the prices they pay for their value. So we shouldn't get carried away with this increase in GDP. No. As if GDP had increased, the prices of goods and items had also increased substantially without a necessary increase in value, in quantity value, in physical values or intrinsic value of those items. Those items are what is key to Nigerians. You want to go to the market, you buy items, you look at it, how much can you buy in the last 1 year? How much are you buying now? Those are the things that we should focus on. And this is never about party. I'm not pro Buhari. I can say I'm pro Nigeria. So if the government of Mr. Buhari had done well, fantastic. We'll note it and say it the way it is. But we should stress what should be done. Now, you had asked me what should be done. I think very, very key here is the issue of security. That man you interviewed, I continue to reference that, he's a farmer. He's also a trader, he's a seller. There are quite a number of people who who used to transact on agriculture before now. They can't go to their farms anymore. Bulk of these places are within Kebbi, Benue, Kogi, and all of these places where the food items that average Nigerians eat are produced from, but they can't go to farms anymore as a result of banditry activities. So most of these items cannot be bought from Nigeria. We have to go outside to source for them, which increase the price of those items, and is actually impacting on the GDP or the whatever economic growth we are supposed to be seeing. So we might be seeing increased GDP rates, but we are not seeing commensurate increase in employability. We are not seeing commensurate increase in the value and the worth of what Naira can buy. You also talked about intrinsic value of the worth of the, what is the worth of the Naira a year ago? What is the worth of the Naira today? So these are issues. When you convert that same GDP against the dollar, how much, can you really say that your GDP has actually increased? We need to be factual with ourselves. We need to say the truth the way it is, and we need to tell Nigerians the truth. The GDP has increased, yes, but is it going to have a resultant, an immediate resultant effect on Nigerians? That is actually going to be a process. Yeah, we have started well, we have seen the progress, but what are we going to do? One, to sustain it. Two, to ensure that it translates to real values.
Let's allow Alessa to respond as well to that same question. Of course, Alessa Wilcox here in the studios with us. Just how can we sustain, how can we consolidate on this growth? And then, of course, would you also want to react or respond to some of...
No, economically, what something is saying is correct. And I said that from day one, growth in GDP does not necessarily translate, because GDP is just a measure of economic activity. So it cannot really translate to we're living a better life. Okay.
It's also mentioned the issue of security, which farmers are afraid to get to their farms.
Well, I still have. We don't have time to delve into that. Sometimes these issues are overbloated. We have them overbloated. Yes, sometimes have them overbloated.
Because a lot of farmers can't even go to their farms anymore.
I've not. Prices. The NBS has not given us that statistics, and I think I will not take social media statistics. The NBS has not given me that statistics. So if we have always believed the NBS when they tell us that our economy is in the downturn, when we enter recession, we believe the NBS, and we all shout, "Hey, Nigeria is bad, Nigeria is bad." So why are we not happy when the NBS gives us a positive news? The same NBS that will tell us we've entered recession.
Yes, so just how?
So the same NBS that will not tell you, and they will all shout and shout. And then when NBS say we are now in a positive and we are growing, and we say it doesn't really reflect. You know, so
how
we cannot be doing
consolidate?
The only way to do is increase productivity. We are a consuming nation, sincerely, and most people are idle, even when they can legitimately put their talent into profitable venture. Right. Everybody wants handout, and again, one thing I want us to look at. We don't have time to pierce through the sectors that recorded this growth. Okay, of course, it's not across the entire sector. It's specific sectors will have gotten higher degrees of growth. Some sectors will have had negative growth. But we're looking at the aggregate. So if we have been able to know the sectors, then we know how to engineer those sectors. For instance, I know that the housing sector, the housing sector is really good in Nigeria. And so those cannot be said to be things that has to do with inflation or whatnot.
Yes,
you know. So and right now, with the opening of the tourism sector, the tourism sector is not growing again. So these are the things that we're supposed to know that we're having a lot of improvement.
And your insight and perspective tonight. Lester Wilcox, public policy analyst, thank you so much for coming on the program.
I'm not a party member. I'm not a politician.
We never said that. We never said that. But you're pro-Buhari.
No, I'm a Buharist. All repentant.
All right. So, Samson Shoebi, thank you so much for joining us as well, live from the United Kingdom, Southampton precisely. Chartered economist, thank you indeed for your analysis and perspective tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so gentlemen, there you go. That's just about the size of program and package tonight. We'd like to thank you most kindly for being on the other side. The show and program returns next week as we keep discussing issues of national interest. From Lagos, Nigeria, I am Kelly Egiga. Good evening.